We said this a couple of times about Jerry Cross, tight end from King High School in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Easy to forget about because he committed to the Nittany Lions over a year and a half ago. He's been a part of the Penn State recruiting class of 2022 since July of 2020. So a long time, and a lot has happened since then. He has stayed a commit to Penn State. So it's easy to forget about when you got that one in the bank and you move on to evaluate other prospects. That's a fair thing to say. There's another reason for that, which we'll get to in just 1 second. But first, let's meet Jerry. He's a 4-star tight end, 267th player in the nation. He is the 15th tight end in the country, according to On3, and he is the 6th player in Wisconsin. So, good player, good prospect, good pedigree here. 6'5", 255 pounds. But it's not just that, maybe he's a little bit under the radar for how long he's been committed to Penn State. It's also because, there's no video, there's no real evaluation of Jerry Cross because between COVID and being injured to begin his senior season, we don't have a lot of film. And apparently in Minnesota, they haven't heard of video cameras. So want to be honest and upfront with all my film rooms, all my evaluations. I was never want to be the guy talking out of his orifices. So there's not a lot of film, so we are going to give you what we have. We're going to do our best here on Jerry Cross. One thing I do know, having watched enough of this film, is 6'5", 255 pounds. He is an inline blocking tight end. He is a true Y tight end that I don't know Penn State has had a couple of them. Pat Fryermuth was a true Y tight end. Jerry is bigger than that, and you can see here his blocking skills. There's some rawness here, but the power and the leverage and the length are all there to be a dominant blocker, one of the better ones Penn State's had. So, and he also lines up all over the field for his high school, King High School in Milwaukee. You see here at receiver, blocking downfield. That's going to be a critical thing on screen routes and things like that for Penn State. This here, though, to me, is where we're going to get into a little bit of the evaluation of what he's being taught. You see his elbow here. You notice how you can see the entirety of the turf tape on the outside? It's not a great thing. That means his shoulders are up and his elbows are wide. That leads to holding. You can see how high he's grabbing on the shoulder pads. That's also not super great. And in general, at 6'5", he's a tall blocker. He's a tall player. So that's something he's going to have to overcome. Although, it's all about consistency. And the reason I'm so hesitant in some of these evaluations without seeing a full game of his is that there's good and there's bad on his highlight film. Legitimately, like this here. Great pad level, great engage initial burst off the line, and then as we keep going here, you'll see, again, look where his elbows are, look at where he is grabbing and the position of his shoulders. He's got his elbows winged out. You're not going to create any power or drive that way, and you might get hurt. You want to keep those elbows tucked inside. You want to have that nice jab, that punch to start off your block. But just the physical dominance is what he's going to be able to coast on in high school. That is not going to be the case going forward. So the blocking, while the talent is there, and I think he's going to be a good blocker in time, that's a correctable thing. That's not terribly hard to just say, hey, do this instead. That'll be fine. I think he's going to be a good blocker. It's the physical tools that I'm still really in the air about, because when it comes to his speed, we'll see some receiving skills in a second. Sometimes he looks super fast on camera, and that's one of those things. If you don't have enough film, you might catch a guy in a bad day. You might catch a guy where he's a little banged up. But in a straight line, I think he's a good athlete, and he's a guy that's going to get yards in the secondary. I don't know how much transition skills. He just looks clunky at times. And to me, that's a little concerning for Penn State, where they've had a lot of really talented elite speed tight ends. And then we'll just roll right into the receiving here, because it all kind of ties together as to what's his complete profile. He's got the size, he can block, he's strong, you can see he's got a great frame, and he lines up as a receiver. So check out some of this. That's a good move there to get off the line. Good transition, it's a bit slow. Ball in his hands, he makes some plays. He's a big guy, so that's encouraging to see how well he moves in space. Here he is lined up at right wide receiver, and here's a jump ball. You would hope at 6'5", he's good at these. Super long arms, super big frame, so you got all of some positive signs, but it leaves you wanting more and wanting to know more about Jerry Cross. Good corner route here. high points the ball, seems to have very good hands, has several high point catches. But again, we don't have a full game to evaluate the drops and when he's not targeted and all that stuff. So Penn State on 3, 267th player in the nation for on 3, 4-star. He's had an offer to Penn State. They know their tight ends for 2 years now. So bank on that. But when it comes to the deep dive analysis, unfortunately for Jerry Cross, with a limited amount of information, this is what we've got to go with for your evaluation of what he is. However, I do think that it's pretty clear his position at the next level, as I said earlier, is that Y tight end. He's not going to be an H-back. He's not going to be lined up in the backfield, crack blocking and pulling and getting in front. He's going to be in line or out flexed in the slot. I think that's really where he's going to be and his role going forward. So for his sake, hopefully he's been developing. Hopefully he's been refining those skills, and we'll find out when we see him. That'll do it for today on T. Frank's Film Room. If you liked the video for what it was, make sure you subscribe and you don't miss any of T. Frank's Film Room or other Penn State football content here on the Blue White Illustrated YouTube channel.